Hello and welcome. We're going to have another try and fly, or I actually call it now impressions or first impressions video about an aircraft that I bought this weekend. It came out a couple of weeks ago. It's CRJ-700 from AD Simulations, and I think, was it yesterday or the day before, it got its first major update. So it's the latest version out. I got it on the store, on the Explain store, and it is around, I think I paid about €50 for it, which is not exactly cheap. And let's have a quick look at the outside model. The frames are, outside frames are okay. We are here in Stuttgart, it's night, so I usually end up with around 30 frames per second, so at least from the outside, the aircraft does not take away a lot of frames. And if we look at the modeling here, it's actually pretty good. There's just one thing, for my taste, this is a little bit too much of reflections here. This is a bit like a mirror. I would say in reality it would probably not reflect quite as much as this, although who knows. It looks a bit strange to me, but the modeling is actually quite well done and pretty high fidelity here, I would say. Like, look at this, look at the front wheel, and can we get closer here? Let me see. So this is actually pretty well done. Yeah, no doubt about that. Look at that. So outside modeling, and as we will see in a moment, the inside modeling is actually quite well done. It's a nice, beautiful aircraft. But we shall see if that continues in other areas of the add-ons design. So now we're inside the cockpit. It's dark, therefore we don't have much light in here. So what I'm going to do is very quickly turn on the aviation flashlight. That will help me find all the buttons. So the first thing we need to do is we have electric power, so I'm activating the battery and I'm also activating the ground power, which is connected. So you would normally then get this alarm. And the next thing is I'm looking for the dome lights, which are here. And now we can have a look at the cockpit. We should probably turn on some more floodlights. I'm going to do that now. So the lighting, the cockpit lighting is actually quite well done, and as you can see, the fidelity here, the resolution is also a pretty good job. Pretty good job here, yeah. So let's turn on all the floodlights so that we see something. But you have quite a few options here for the cockpit lighting, which I think is one of the better ones I have seen so far. So, yeah, here are the displays. They are usually quite small, and that's also something that bugs all CRJ implementations due to the fact that in the simulator we have not that much options on how to place our views. So it's very, very difficult to read the displays. So I have a 20-something inch screen, and it's 1024 resolution. I'm not able to read these here. Okay, I roughly know what it should say, but I can't really read them. The same here, apart from these numbers, which are a bit bigger, I have really difficulties reading, for example, the altitude. Yeah, it's difficult. So the good thing is you do not need something like Texture Extractor, because they actually give you all the displays as pop-ups. That's actually quite good. The same for this. And you can even externalize these. There is one flaw with this though. Apart from the first two, I cannot put all the other windows onto my second screen, so they will always jump back, and I'm going to show you how that looks like. So I've made it now a pop-up window. I bring it over to my other screen, and as you can see, it is back again. It jumps back, which is a bit of a pain. I'm not sure why that is. Yeah, but it's okay. So what I do is I bring out these two windows for me, because that just helps me. And then I also open this window, I make it a bit smaller, and then I put it on another screen which is above, and that one, it doesn't jump back. I'm not sure why it's doing this, but I think this is not the aircraft itself. So it has nothing to do with AD simulations work. It's something with the screens. I think the screen setup and X-plane. I'm pretty sure this is not something that the aircraft does. Yeah, putting out so many windows and also activating actually has made frames drop here inside. As you can see, we are now at 20. So externalizing windows is an expensive operation. Which means that I close those again, and then we are back with 30. And if we have a look, the one that really takes most of the frames, I think, is the navigation display. But it's the combination. So the more windows you bring out, let's see, we are now at 20. I close one of them again. Yeah, so if we put out both these displays, then we actually do get barred frames. Let's see what happens when yeah, see? So as soon as we open the second one, we have actually barred frames. Let's have a look then. Let's continue here. There is a cold and dark and a ready to taxi. And you can switch on the external power from here. So that's what I did. That's why we have external power at the moment. Cold and dark does what it says on the tin, and ready to taxi does also, but be aware, don't press ready to taxi twice. What happened to me is when I did press it a second time, while it obviously wasn't finished yet, I kind of expected a more or less instantaneous switch, but it seems that in the ready to taxi case, it goes through. It takes time to run through the whole procedure. So I thought that the engine should run when you go into ready to taxi mode, but yeah, they will run, but it takes time. So don't press again, because I did this twice, and twice I crashed to desktop. So just click on ready to taxi and then be patient. Wait that it starts up all the engines and have you ready, and then you're fine. Now here comes the weirdest thing. Well, actually, this is not the weirdest thing, but it is somewhat strange. So we have, I think, up to 68 passengers. In theory, what you can do is you can use a drag mouse pointer, but don't try and do it like this. You have to go up to go down, or you have to go down to go up. Yeah, really strange. The mouse wheel does not work. You can also click here, but be careful. What happens is, I had the case where I didn't get out of that field, and then nothing worked. I had no keys in the simulator because I was grabbing the key focus, and after some enter, escape, in and out, suddenly it came back again. I'm actually not sure what I did. It's fine. So if you use this, just click. Don't do any fancy things. Enter your value and press enter and leave it. And don't click several times, because I think it might have to do with the fact that I then clicked around. So yeah. And if you want to use this one here, don't forget down means up and up means down. Right. So let's go here. We have a similar weird thing. Let me quickly go here on the last page and switch to kilograms, because I'm in kilogram world here. So you have 3 tanks. You have the center tank, and it is probably very similar. Yeah, up and down. Here, by the way, the same thing on the wing tank. And now look at this. This is really, really strange. Now I click here and I enter 2,000 kilograms, and it starts already reducing this. So you have to enter 2,000 again. Then you go here again. So it has to be close to the value, otherwise it starts an automatic fuel transfer. It's a nice idea, but it's not here, okay? I would like to be in control of any kind of fuel transfer. Crossflow, I don't know, maybe I have to turn this off. Maybe it I don't know. So, bit strange. Okay, 4,000 kilograms is more than enough fuel for where we are going from Stuttgart to Munich. Yeah, there is room for improvement on these menus. Now let's go to the settings. You have glasses. You can do tinted glass. I usually turn stuff like that off immediately. And you have reflections, medium reflections, high reflections, no reflections. I'm not a friend of reflections, so I have turned this off, but it's up to you. The sounds are quite well done. I think the sounds are okay, and also I turned the interior engines quite high, but you cannot hear much of them, and that is not unrealistic because the engines are right at the back, and therefore it's normal that you don't hear that much of your engines. And I usually put exterior engines pretty low so that when we are in the outside views, the engine noise is not completely overriding my voice. Okay, so quite normal. And then we have MIS. And that's something, maybe I've overlooked it in the documentation. I probably have. I didn't study it again. I can only imagine that you have the option to have some kind of fly-by-wire, which could be that the new generations of the CRJ may have something like fly-by-wire or simulation. Now, it was default-wise on simulation, and my guess is at the moment, I mean, it's try and fly, so if you know that, I don't study everything there is. I kind of go and look at it intuitively, right? Simulation is probably the standard X-plane way of doing things, and that might also be the reason for the sensitivity. So what I'm going to try during the flight is that I will switch this, I hope I don't forget, and then see if there's a difference, and maybe things do improve when I switch to fly-by-wire. Now, fly-by-wire for me means can mean several things. So first of all, it means we are not directly connected to the surfaces anymore. There's something in between. And the other thing could mean it's like the Airbus thing, where you actually set the attitude. Now, I doubt somehow that it is setting the attitude. I guess it's just another way of controlling the surfaces. And it could mean that my issues that I have with the controlling may be related here. So let's not forget, I will hopefully do it then during the flight. Now on the information page, you get the switch between weight and LBS. I'm not sure why this isn't in the settings, but doesn't matter, it's okay. You see all the weights here. Total weight is 28.6 tons at the moment. We have 4 tons. We have passengers of 65. There is no cargo, and there is something here that looks like a future option in the menu for also adding cargo. So you can see the aircraft isn't quite finished yet. That's at least the impression that I got. And we have some really weird thing here. So these are the V speeds, V1, V rotate, and V2. And at the moment, I'm taking these because I have no other information. There's also a trim value, and I'm assuming that this changes with the weight that we have. You press, by the way, on this button, and what happens is, so if we see, I've made a view here. So what you can see is they get automatically transferred. Otherwise, you would have to switch to V speeds here, and then you would need to select the particular V speed, and then you would start turning the wheel here in order to get the particular V speed set. Okay, it's easier when you do it from the menu like this, but then again, yeah, good. So that's that. Yeah. Right, let's close those doors and let's start looking at the avionics. Now the avionics are, as I said, they are pretty much standard X-plane, but they do have some issues, at least the way it looks to me. So let's have a quick look on the December ARAC. It's 1155 release 2. Hang on. So what we can do now is we can go to the route menu and you know all that, and I could now choose a flight, and I will do that because I wanted to show you what can happen. So I'm, for example, taking this flight. Okay, yep, that was a slightly older ARAC used in this, but it's okay. So it's going from EDDS to EDDM. Flight number is TST1. And I used this particular route already several times with other airplane. We have some really weird things here. So I go into the legs page, and I'm now removing hey, and I'm also removing the discontinuity. And I am putting in uptal. Right, so it's really weird, and I can tell you what happens is, or what happened to me once was that it, in the middle of the flight, it actually turned around and tried to fly to PPOS. PPOS is present position, actually. It's not a waypoint as such. And it turned around and I wanted to fly back. And that's how I realized that there was some issue here in the flight plan. So what I do now is I go to departure and use the APTA for hotel. I say execute, then I go to legs again, and then we need to, because we probably, yeah, we have a mess again. You can see now it says DS030, that's correct. APTAL is correct, but we have now another APTAL here. So I put this over here and I say execute. Now let's have a look. And as you can see, we still have APTAL here. So I execute it, and it can't do that, right? So what I do is I delete this APTAL. And now I think I've messed it up completely. Yep, it's now completely crooked. I'm not sure if this is this aircraft or if this is something that they have introduced with X-Plane 1155. Can't tell you. So Rixet, Dodil, Redvo, Rida, D-Top. And the cruise altitude is actually flight level 190. I have to change this. And yeah, I think this one looks okay here. So I'm not going to touch that. And we're going to now go to the VNAV and change the transition altitude. Then we specify the cruise altitude. And we change this here. So now let's have a quick look. Yeah, it hasn't changed. So the whole planning now, it doesn't take, now that's the X-plane, all right? So it does not change. Let me see, I think we should be at flight level 190 here. Yeah, but it doesn't calculate anything. That's just the way it is. There's nothing we can do. That's the disadvantage of using the default and not having a proper, like a Zibo or so, flight management. So you do not get a proper flight management. You get a reasonable, let's say, basic implementation, which also gives you, by the way, if you go onto the progress page, it also gives you a top of descent. It calculates something, but I wonder now what it calculates here, because is this based on 15,000 or flight level 190? Who knows? I can't tell you. Right, just make sure that your flight plan is proper, because otherwise you will have issues during the flight later on, as I had as well. So let's have a quick look here. And we can see now we're flying straight. Now this is already looking weird again. It's usually a sign that something isn't quite right, unless it's just a problem displaying it. Oh yeah, by the way, you can pop out this window. Don't do the... already happened. Certain buttons, I wasn't sure that flight plan, certain buttons will cause the display to go off. And interestingly now it comes back, but I had cases where I wasn't able to get it back again. It's a bit weird. It is weird. So let's go to legs and check again. So up dial, then comes, there's a discontinuity, at least it displays a discontinuity, which shouldn't be there actually. And by the way, this whole, look here, oh, now this works again today. I had some issues yesterday. It was stopped, it didn't go through, but the display kept jumping on me. Now there seems to be a discon, and that's not a good sign, but I can't see this discontinuity here. Abtal, Rixet, Dodil. I think it still has the discontinuity here somewhere. So this is not so good. Let's execute it. Maybe, we need to execute it. I didn't execute it. Forget it. Forget it. But yeah, when you see things like this, just check again, because there shouldn't be kind of overlaying things. At least the labels are readable. So that is quite important, that it's not the default XP11 microfiche navigation display, which nobody can read anything. Okay, so I think we do have the flight, so we also defined all the vertical navigation as far as you can do. So there isn't really much more you can do in here, okay? It's very limited what it offers. There's the direct to page index, the radios, the progress. The performance page doesn't work, secondary flight plan doesn't work. The holding page does work. And yeah, that's it. None of these. Oh, well, this one works. Oh yeah, here you can define what you want to see in on the map. So you can, for example, add airports to the map, but it does this quite unintelligently, and it clutters your screen with tons of airports. This looks a bit strange to me, so I turn this off again. Don't want that. I personally have a feeling that I personally thought it was too much airports for this region. It's a 40-mile. There can't be that many airports around Stuttgart. So I have a feeling we have a scaling issue here on the map. and it shows you actually more airports than there should be in this area. It's a bit strange, yeah. Okay, so that's it. We are through. And now let's try and get ready for pushback. So I'm going to call
ground to cockpit.
Better
Please
pushback.
show me where you want to go. To cockpit. Toes driving up.
Yep. Yesterday, strangely, was the Bavarian fella. Today it's just a normal voice. So they change every day. Yeah. What I also find a bit not so good is the fact that yaw damper and stabilizer trim buttons, they do not change no matter what you click. You have absolutely no way of knowing by the button whether it's turned on or off. For example, the yaw damper. If it's off, then it will be shown here in the status display or in one of the status displays. Yeah, like here. There are also some other things that are not working properly yet, and that's, for example, the isolation switch. It's open now as it should be, but if you put it to closed,
Okay.
it will...
All doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect. Set parking brake.
The parking brake is set. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to...
Cinching strap and adapter in position. Release parking brake when you're ready to start pushback.
Will do, will do. So I'm going to bring down the floodlights now, because we don't need it as bright. And I'm also going to switch off the... Yeah, coming to the switches, by the way. So let's take the nav lights. I turn the nav lights on. And then you see a click spot. You can click as much as you want. It will not switch. Why? Because you have to go up here. And that's what I mean. This is unnecessary, making it unnecessary complicated. I mean, if there is no distinguishing between up and down, then just make it a toggle click. So I can toggle the switch by just clicking anywhere. No, I have to find the right position in order to get it working. All right? It's a bit unfortunately. It just doesn't have to be like this, but yeah, can't. So the other interesting thing here, same thing by the way, yeah, you have to find where you have to click. This ELT button doesn't work at all, although there's a click spot here. And you must turn the emergency lights on. Now, you don't have the emergency lights on during the flight. You arm them. But when you arm them, you get actually an error. It kind of tells you that the emergency lights are off, which is not correct behavior. So, in order to start the APU, you click on the power button. There's no indication, so you click on the power button and then make sure that you see here, and there's this door open. This is the APU, and you also see the instruments of the APU. If you don't do this, you will not be able to start the APU. And then you click once on the start button, and now it'll fire up the APU for us. RPM is 100, EGT, and I think we do already have power. We can check this by going to the, yeah, I need to zoom in because I can't read it. Where's the electric page? Here it is. Yeah, so we have power now from the electric. So all these synopsis here is relatively well done. Yeah, I'm quickly scanning through them. Not all of them make 100% sense now, so there are some things that are not 100%, but it's okay. So in general, it's quite okay. And here we have the anti-ice, and that's the door page. All the doors are closed. Down here now, we have a very strange one. I still haven't been able to understand neither how to accept or cancel the reset of the fuel used. nor how to get out of this page again, because this is the only menu. It's very strange, very, very strange. So shell 0 fuel used, accept. This is yeah, weird. So yeah, primary we have already on the other display, so let's choose another one. Let's put the status page here, because together with the primary and the status, they give you indications for everything that's going on. So at the moment we can see now that we have still many of the orange and red lights, but we also have some green lights here. The fuel pumps are on, the parking brake is on, the APU is started, the no smoking is on, main battery charger, isolation is open, recirculating fans are still off. I assume that they should be turned on, because then it goes away. Yeah, and then there are some other things here. Now let's get the engine started. For that you do the following. Let's turn off the packs, and then we press on the start button, and we're now waiting. I'm not sure how long we have to wait. I just give it a bit. I unlatch the throttle lever, and then I push it a bit up so that it goes into the fuel open. Because down here is the fuel cut, and the other one is the fuel open. And now the engine lightens up. Okay, starter cutout, and we start with number 1. Unlatch. Yeah, and then just you have to push it until it's in the 0 position. All right, that was 2 good starts, and we're now going to disconnect the ground power. We can turn off the APU. Can activate the packs. You will not hear a difference. And we are going to turn on the window heat, the probes, and set up here. So recirculating fan is on, the packs are on. Basically, no lights up here it's a no light cockpit philosophy, as far as I remember. Okay, then let's do second flap position. In case we need to abort, I'm turning on the thrust reversers and also this ground dumping man arm, whatever that is. Then the no smoking sign is on. Yeah, the seat belts are on. And here's now the thing with the isolation valve. It doesn't matter what I do here with this switch, this message will not change. We still have to define the anti-skid. That is, I think, here somewhere. We see, yeah, anti-skid armed. And that should remove most of those. The tests, well, I haven't really found many working tests that make noise. You can press buttons, but Yeah, there isn't really that much.
Operation complete. Please set parking brake.
Parking brake is set.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
35 frames, which is quite okay for the fact that it's darker. Like night always takes away when the lights are on. And some of the airports, they're all default airports, but yeah, the scenery around it can take away some frames. I get usually with very simple aircraft, I get about 40 to 41 frames per second. This one uses, at the moment, uses about 35, 34. If you don't externalize more than one window, you'll be okay.
Tower is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the left. I'll see you next time. Have a safe flight.
Thank you, Winky Winky. Yeah, here we can see the really lovely model again. I mean, that's definitely something that's worth its while. But yeah, there are many little weaknesses that you find during your flights and entering the flight plan, and limitations, VNAV mode and things like that. Also, with getting the autopilot engaged, there are some simplifications that have been put in. Yeah, that is kind of, yeah, I'm not that happy with those. So let's turn on the taxi light. Let's disable the parking brake. You have to be aware this aircraft is happily accelerating away. The steering is also, you don't need much input on the steering tiller. And when you have a strong turn, for example, turning into the parking position, it takes quite a long time for the wheel to come back into the straight forward position, which means you will overshoot the line if you don't calculate that in when you do your turn. It's best to keep using the brake and just have the aircraft slow down. Okay. So, as I said, I can't turn on but what I can do now is can turn on the lights. We turn off the taxi light and we turn on the strobes. And no, hang on, the logo light. Yeah. Anything else? Passenger signs are on. Everything looks okay up here. The flaps are out. Okay. Then let's turn onto the runway. Right.
Approaching 07.
So when you do a strong turn, you have to bring back the steering tiller a good bit before reaching the point where you want to straighten, because otherwise you will overshoot. I've done it now a couple of times, so... Right, now don't forget, this aircraft does not have auto throttle. And by the way, you have to make sure for using LNAV that this here shows FMS1. Here down here is the source, the navigation source, and what we have is FMS, localizer 1, nothing, and this strange course thing, and then this here again. Okay, so this has to be FMS 1. It's to be turned on. Let's straighten the heading because it's actually wrong. Okay, and our altitude, I'm actually going to turn it up to flight level 190. We're going to climb through.
On runway 07. On runway 07.
Okay, I'm also using the heading mode for lateral guidance at the beginning, and so the V2 is 134, and we have 144, which is V2 plus 10. Okay, right then. Now we'll bring the throttles forward so that we meet this 83. You can see it here. It has. We're actually in climb mode. That's not what I wanted. Press on that little button if you can hit it. Now we're in takeoff mode, and that's actually 92. I was wondering. And rotate. And very carefully pull on the yoke. Positive rate, gear up. I don't do much on the elevator, right? And it reacts immediately, so it's right. Then nav 1, and I'm turning on speed mode, and I turn on the autopilot, and I let the I take back the power now. Flaps up. And I'm climbing out with 220 for the moment. Yeah, and unfortunately it stops climbing completely, so it's a little bit over exaggerated. I personally think, I'm not sure that the real aircraft would do this. Would do it like this, and we need to also take back the power because we have quite a climb rate here. Let's try and get to about 1800. Give it a bit of time. It'll to settle because it will yo-yo up and down. $6,000. So yeah. Slowly reducing the power so that we that our climb rate. Now what I could also do is I could use the vertical speed mode and then use the power to stick, but it's easier during takeoff to use the speed mode and stick to your speed. So we are still below 10,000. Now it has already switched into cruise mode, which does not make sense because we're still in climb mode. Yeah, so this whole engine mode thingy is not there yet either. So I'm going to 250. 250. 10,000, landing lights off. Yeah, and now it has kind of settled at 1,800 feet per minute. We're climbing through to Uptal now, 20 nautical miles. As you can see here now. If I want to increase the climb rate, I notch up the power levers a little bit. I mean, we are here in cruise, but now the thing is, the top of descent that it calculates here basically says that shortly after rig set we need to start descending again. Well, we're most likely not going to reach 19,000 at rig set. Is a bit short, so I'm going to give it a bit more power. And we climb with a slightly higher rate. Not sure that this here is working. Chronometer. Nah. Here you can see the speeds for your flaps. So flaps 8, 230, flaps 20, 230, flaps 30, 185, flaps 45, 170 knots. That's the speeds here by which they need to be in, the latest. So the sound, I find it quite okay. It's a nice mix of, you can hear some of the engines, but it's not that loud, which is realistic. And there's a lot of the wind noise that you normally have in a cockpit. So to me it sounds quite good. I'm happy enough with the quality of the sound. We are now at almost 40 because we are out of the airport environment. 40 frames per second, which is also quite okay for my rig here. The display is a bit confusing because it looks like we are already approaching 20,000 feet, but yeah, that's one of these little inconsistencies. Whoops, I forgot. We need to bring down the power. Yeah, it already switches to 19, although we are still in 18,000 range. That's not okay. It's confusing to see that. And what it also has is this climb indicator. It comes like there seem to be very small fluctuations, so this thing is coming and it's looking as if it's descending or climbing, but in reality it isn't. So we have 8 miles to the top of descent. What I will do is then I will use the a descent rate of 1800 feet per minute, because I think that's what this is calculated on. We need to be at 5,000 feet for Magat. And let's see if that works out. 5,000. Top of descent 4 miles. Okay. And we've reached the top of descent. I am now using a vertical speed mode. And don't use the mouse wheel, don't click, because the click goes in steps of 300, which is a bit too much. And with 1800 feet per minute, you need to bring back the power completely, but that's not enough. You will see that it will most likely accelerate. So if that happens, and my experience is it will happen at 1800 feet per minute, although at the moment it looks okay. Yeah, it's very slowly climbing the speed, slowly but surely. Just use a little bit of a speed brake, because you can't do much more on the engines. The engines are in idle. So if the yeah, I think that should be fine. Just have an eye on the speed, and we're now descending with 1800 feet per minute. In the meantime, because we're on the descent, let's go on the information page. Now forget that here, yeah, that's complete bullshit. So what I'm going to do is I am going to try and select the reference speed and bring it down to something like 139. Okay, yeah, with a little bit of very little speed brake, we are staying nicely on the 250, and we're also fixed to the 1800 feet per minute. Now that's this kind of thing. I had several flights in the meantime, and I kind of intuitively learned now what this aircraft is doing, or how it kind of approaches things when it gets faster. If you have a descent rate of more than 1800 feet per minute, you will have to use more speed brake, because you will not be able to slow down the aircraft. It will slowly accelerate and accelerate. Probably beyond the value that you should have, and there's nothing you can do by just pulling back on the throttles. And even now you can see that we are slightly accelerating, so I'm giving a little bit more speed brake to prevent it from getting faster. I'm not sure if that's realistic like this. I don't know. Maybe I should use a different descent rate. But the X-Plane FMC, I think, is programmed to use 1800 feet for calculation. Yeah, the top. Okay. Yeah, no, everything okay. Now, when we look at the calculation here, it looks as if we're descending too slowly, but yesterday what I had is, it first looked as if we won't make it until Magat, but then this thing came further and further down, so that in the end we were actually too early at 5,000. We were already at 5,000 at day top, because I started now speeding up the descent. Yep, I learned from that, and so I'm not touching it at the moment. And you can already see how it's slowly but surely coming down. So this is not exactly the most accurate display of the descent. 10,000. What's also a bit strange is this here now we are again in cruise mode. It used to show us 83 in cruise mode, now it's 92. That's almost takeoff power level. I don't think we can rely on this here. This doesn't seem to be really helpful. So I'm actually, I don't care really. I do whatever speed I calculate for my flight. On this test flight, we actually stick with 250. That's part of the scenario. So, and I try and see what do I need to do in order to stick to the speed with the auto throttle. So now you can see that we have 10 miles to D-top. We're already at 7,000. So I'm pretty sure we are going to be a bit too early with the 5,000 feet. So I'm reducing the descent rate. This is not the most accurate of display, I think. Okay, now I can put back the speed brake into the down detent. Yeah, 1.5. I think 1,400 feet is the descent rate that will not accelerate a lot. 1,300 or 1,400, I don't know, we're still accelerating. So I'm using the speed brake again. Again, it's a bit weird the way it shows the altitude. I'm not sure if we are in the 5,000 or in the 6,000 at the moment, but I think it looks like Yeah, the altitude alert came relatively late. Okay, we're now at 5,000. I need to give... the alert was kind of 200 feet or so. It's not exactly a lot of warning you get. So now we are turning towards Magat. I'm turning the heading to 80. I'll wait that it has settled. And then I'm going to switch to heading mode. And we're then going to start and get the aircraft set up. Now we can already see that the localizer is visible. It's coming in. So I'm quickly changing to heading mode, and then I'm switching the source to localizer 1. The course is wrong, I just realized. Or is it? And then I use the approach mode. So I've armed the approach mode. We are on the localizer. With 80, it has switched automatically. Oh, what's it doing? Uh-oh. Oh no, it's okay. And we are actually seeing the glide slope here. I'm now going to reduce the speed. We're a little bit off the localizer. Well, we still have enough time to get back on. And actually now, what I'm going to do now is, just for me to see what this actually does, is I'm going to switch this to fly-by-wire. And then I'll compare it with my experience that I had with the controls as soon as I take the autopilot away. So Magat is still 5 nautical miles. We're 16 miles from the airport, so there's still a bit of time. Whoops. So the glide slope is coming in. Okay, glide slope is captured. Out with the flaps. You probably need a bit of speed brake here. I'm on idle thrust. And a bit of speed brake, about half the speed brake to get the speed down. And gear down.
2500.
7 miles. Flaps full. And now you have to be careful with the speed. You now have to use the throttles to stop it getting slower. So it has settled on the glide slope, it has settled with the speed. Looking good. Clubs are out, gears down, speed brake is in. I don't know if there is an arm position for the speed brake. Let's see. I don't think there is. Not sure if it's automatically extended. Otherwise, I'll just bring it out manually. Yeah, so we're nicely now on our 144. That's my 139 plus 5. $1,000. There's no auto land, so I will have to take over. The only way for me to disconnect the autopilot was to use the command for this button here. Somehow I didn't find an autopilot disconnect.
Approaching 08 left.
08 left, confirmed. Oh yeah, I didn't set the minima, right?
500.
Yeah, okay. We don't have the minimums. Autopilot off. Now let's see.
400.
Oh yeah, the fly-by-wire is different. Oh yeah, it's quite a difference.
300.
It's not as nervous as it is in the other mode. Okay, so I think I will leave that fly-by-wire mode, whatever that is, on. That's much, much better. I'm not sure why there is actually an option.
100. 50. 40. 30.
Long landing. Long landing.
20.
3,300 meters remaining.
Okay, and reverses. Oops. Oh yeah, so this whatever fly-by-wire, by the way, there's no auto brake, so you have to use your brakes. And interestingly, the reference speed display only comes after we have landed, which is also doesn't make sense whatsoever. Yep. So switch to fly-by-wire because the default simulation mode is crap. It's not good. That was actually quite good now. All right. Alrighty. Yep. Very good. Now let's bring up the flaps, bring in the speed brake. Power start the APU, turn off the strobes, turn off landing lights, turn on the taxi lights, and off we go towards the terminal. What I realized was I didn't hear anything when we touched the ground. So I wasn't actually sure if we have already touched the ground. I think what I will do is I'm going to have a quick look at the replay mode to see if when and if we touch the ground. Yeah, it's floating. I had this a couple of times. It's floating. It's floating. See? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought so. I had to actually press it down. There's quite a strong ground effect, it seems. And that's although I went actually, I think the speed is too high. Even the one that I had was too high. I think it needs to be much lower on landing. And I took the power out relatively early, but you could still see that there was quite a bit of energy there. So it just didn't want to touch the ground. Yeah, so it was quite a long landing. Okay, fair enough. So, my summary here. To be honest, when I got this aircraft at the weekend and on my first attempts to fly with it, I was not very happy with it. I thought it was strange. The click spots drove me mad. Oh, by the way, again, I probably didn't hit it. Then I had some issues with the flight plan. It did this. I'm turning back to where I came from. Crap in the middle of the flight. It was oversensitive. It was bobbing around like crazy, and yeah, then this thing with the fuel, entering the fuel. So there were so many things, and I thought, oh no, €50 for this. In the meantime, though, I have to say, the more I fly it, not everything that I experience is actually the aircraft. So there are also things that come from X-plane. The crashes, that's a difficult one. Today it worked actually perfectly because I know what I should avoid. So I'm not touching things that I think may have been associated with one or two of my crashes. So it grew on me, actually. I've started to like it now, but it's up to you. If you think that after what you've seen now, and I mean there are some other videos out there as well from other people, it's up to you. If you say it's worth the money, I'm kind of. If you would have asked me on Saturday, I would have said no. If you ask me now, I would have said, well. I know that they're still working on it. I'm kind of expecting a lot of updates to be coming our way in the next months with this aircraft, and this probably means that they would get rid of some of these strange things that they have, and maybe get some aspects of flight a bit more stable than they may be now. And if that's the case, then I think you do get a reasonable aircraft that is on the quality level as you would get from X-Craft or so. Yeah, so I'm kind of optimistic here that we might be getting an aircraft over time now. It's just that, again, we are the beta testers, it seems. As I said in my live stream, in my German one, I have a feeling we are, again, playing the beta testers. It had to come out for the Christmas business, and it might have been released a little bit too early. That's why they needed this patch. By the way, the reason why I bought it relatively late is because I read and saw that there were far more issues, and I thought, no, I'm not going to spend money on this. But after the update came out now this weekend, I kind of tried again, and yeah, and look at this. I mean, it is a beauty. There's no doubt about that. This is a beautiful aircraft that they've done here. So I'm not as critical anymore as I was 2 days ago. But still, I can understand if people say, well, no, I'm not willing to invest money in something that's not finished. That's basically what people keep telling me. So, by the way, in order to get these turned off, you pull, latch, pull, and then the engines turn off. Right, beacon off. Up, hang on. And off. Oh, did we not? We didn't have hydraulics. Oh, that's interesting. We did not have hydraulics, but everything worked. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Right, that's it. That's the AD Simulations CRJ-700, the latest kit on the block here. Yeah, I still have a bit of a backlog of aircraft. So I have to look at the Tolis A340, and I also have to fly JSim Dash. So yeah, I guess the fly JSim Dash might be the next one I have a good look at. As far as I can see, it promises quite a few interesting things. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and until next time.